As you just a while back said, you got, Kiran told you to delegate, to present a delegation. I was communicated by my team that I have to do this communication to you. Both Praveen and Venkat Ramireddy, they are not here. They are in on-site. I called them once or twice to take feedback, and that's what we have incorporated here in this effective communication. Zeb, you have asked us to answer the 4 parts of the topic that you have given us. So one is, what is the meaning of competency? That how important it is for the proper execution of your work. See, as a manager, me, Praveen, or Venkat Ramireddy, we manage learning, development, operations, and even delivery. All of us actually doing the same thing, irrespective of whether you are in delivery, whether you are in support. We have to handle a whole lot of communication in a lot of forms. It could be written, it could be communication to the people like this, or the communication one-to-one. And this communication is, according to us, it's very important, because as managers, we believe that for the proper execution of work, there are 2 types of communication that we all need to be knowing. For the managers, because we are somewhere in the middle, and the very reason why we are here is to go to the next level. But here, when you are in the middle, you need to be knowing, as per our experience, how to do this communication upper side and how to do it lower down. And upper side, it could be trying to understand what you need to be doing when you have something, an assignment to do. They may give you a very high level of requirements, but when you are breaking those things into smaller pieces, getting it broken in a way which is what the management is expecting. And now, the second thing, how are you going to communicate what you have got to be executing down there to your team? You may not be able to do it, or we don't have to do it the way you have done it to the management. Because there, they may not need you to be communicating elaborately, rather you need to be just giving them the high level points because they understand that. But wherein you cannot assume that your team down there will understand the same language. You need to be breaking it down, assign tasks, prioritize, put a policy, put a process, and go to them the way they are required to be reached. This is what we feel when it comes to the meaning of competency of communication to us. A case study, as per Venkat Ramireddy, who says many times both on-site and offshore team members don't exchange timely communication.
Is he saying that after going there, or?
Just before he left, it's his previous experience. What he meant to say is, yes, there is phone calls that are happening, and they are going on a conference calls every day. That is speaking. According to him, communication means the larger output. Do these people know what they need to be doing? Do they know what are the tasks and how those tasks are broken into priorities? It seems to be an opinion from him that everybody will come back when there is a good news to say, and they will inflate, rather they will exaggerate it, and they'll be more happy to come in. Anybody from the team will come back, but when they anticipate something which is not going to happen down the line, or if they see there is a bad news that they need to be saying, as per his experience, he feels like nobody will come in advance and say that. And that's something which we all thought is very important, a case study that from this point we need to be sharing. And little brainstorming that we did, hopefully this is what the solution is. The solution, what we all suggest is, when you are communicating, whether it's a phone call, email, or anything, it's always good to have a communication tracker. A communication tracker, even without action points, is fine. Yes, without action point, it could be the minutes of the meeting. Now, when you have an action point, how do you connect that to the smaller pieces that you wanted to communicate down the line and up the line? Put a priority, task, and a person, and a date. Everything is better always to be noted, so that everyone are in the same line. And we suggest that this tracker need to be shared to everybody, the stakeholders who are involved. Coming back to the second point to Dr. Zak, who have asked, what are the associated behaviors requirement? Well, managers will face this challenge from new hires, especially because they come from various backgrounds, various environment, and especially the freshers, they are just out of the college. And before even you bring them into the system, what Praveen opinions is, you need to actually align them to your value system. Even if it takes a week or 10 days, it's fine. I believe what we think is, right now the moment a lateral comes in, the second day you started briefing them about the project and processes, and fourth day onwards he will get into it. Once he's into the system, he will not understand your value system because he's just getting into the technology. So we feel like you are treating him like an asset who executes technical aspects of your project process. Instead, you treat him like an asset who understands your value system first before getting into your system. Even if it takes 7 or 10 days, fair enough. That's the objective. The reason why we are saying is our experience, which I have shared it a couple of times before, especially people who come from college, they have a different mindset, different way of communication. If you ask them what is communication, they say writing, they say speaking. At the most, one fine moment they say writing, reading, but they never say listening because that's not important to them. And second part is they always believe in competing with others because that's what the education system taught them. Compete. And now, if you don't take the 10 days to communicate your value system, they start competing with your team members, which is not a right sign. Rather, they have to compete with themselves. I think these are a few things that we ideated and thought we should be presenting that to you. One of the case study that Praveen says is he uses different yardsticks to deal with the members because he has got members who are working on-site, laterals, seniors, juniors, and you may not have to use the same aspect of communication to reach them. You need to understand, empathize with them, and go to their level to convey the message. Because even when it comes to competency, we do say your technology at this level, it has to be basic, intermediate, or advanced. When we define competency in that manner, why don't we actually speak to him also in the same empathetical order? Now coming back to the, this is the solution, which I did tell you already. To tell it to you in Zep's own words, he says, you should find what tickles team members because each individual is different. I need to know what is it that Sairaj needs to be listening, hearing from me before I actually get into the actual conversation. I know, just to give an example, he wasn't well for a while. Now before actually, it's okay, that's business what we do. Hey Sairaj, I believe you aren't well, how are you now? And it's not just you're doing it for the sake of it, you are actually going to that place, where he thinks like he means more than business. And then, even if it's a bad news that I have to communicate to him, Sairaj, you are supposed to deliver that part of the assignment to me yesterday, but it has not still arrived. He will not take it in a way which is offensive, because he understands that I'm asking him only from the professional point of view, otherwise I care. Yeah? This is how I believe you should find what tickles someone. And the fourth part, what are challenges that you face in leading up to behavior? Well, this is very important. Most of the time we spend more than 3 hours as managers in meetings. Yeah? We spend in and out from one meeting to another. And I think it's rather a crime in case if I say that if I call you for a meeting without telling you why you have to come, and without telling you what is the agenda, and without telling you what are the action points that you need to be prepared on before even coming to the meeting, it's not right. If I were you, I prefer not even to go to the meeting. And then 3 of us, when we were discussing on this, I thought, why should I go for a meeting if I don't know what I need to be doing? Majority of time it was observed, a calendar request comes to you that, meeting from 10 to 1 at Duluth. What is it all about? Nobody knows. I think that's something we thought we need to be bringing in to say effective communication means this. And there are the channels of communications. One is, it goes from one to second to third, then one to many, and to all. I think you must be knowing that channel. I believe some of the managers are not using it effectively. So now, if you need to be discussing a larger aspect of a project, it's always good to call all the members. Now, if you are breaking that into minor things like who is coding, who is testing, and who is doing the architect, you may have to just call only those people. And if you need to be taking what's the progress of it, you may not have to call anybody, just call the stakeholder. Right? But now, we opinion that sometimes everybody will be called for all the meetings. And we are wasting time of the rest of this is what is the output from this. That's what I was trying to say, the case study. We have noticed at SPI many times managers call for a meeting, which includes members who may not be required, and irony is, many attendees appear at meetings without any clue. Solution? Meetings are organic, that you all know, and to make good things happen, invite people with purpose and inform them prior hand to prepare before they step into the meeting. Bottom line, close meeting channels wisely. Choose meeting channels, that's the one which I have explained to you, and to add, which is not here, closing on time. What practical strategies do you suggest for facing challenges in meeting with behavior requirement? My friends, since the world is incredibly diverse and we are not only in Mysore, we are in Nepal and we are in Australia and we are everywhere, the way you communicate here, which will be effective of course, may not be effective if you communicate the same way to somebody who's in Nepal. And it may not be the same effective if you communicate to somebody who's in Canada. During the discussion we thought, if you speak the way I'm speaking so fast to somebody who's a Canadian, I don't think you would have understood anything. You need to speak one word at a time. And now, even if you speak slow to somebody who's in Nepal, he may not understand because he understands different accent. So that's again a different ball game. That's what we are trying to explain here in this part. Best thing is try to understand how you have to be empathetic. It's always okay to ask questions. It's always okay to stop by. And we say listening is a very important part here. Listening is not necessarily like you are stopping until you get a chance to speak. Listening is trying to understand what that person is saying. Even if you had something that you want to convey, don't say it because that may not be required after hearing what he has said. Okay? And the case study, you all have participated in this leadership workshop. And one way of doing is, over 4 months, we did activities, classroom, and we also used the help of technology. Technology, that means we had online coaching. Now, there are a lot of technologies that are in handy, like WhatsApp, it could be WizQ or Google Chat. I believe we all should go to a level where instead of calling everybody to one common place. I do understand the touch and look feeling is important in communication, but not necessarily every time you need to be doing it because time is important for all of us. I believe we have to make use of this kind of technology effectively to make our communication more meaningful. Solution, there is this technology optimally to make our communication effective. Communication, the human connection is the key to personal and career success. I forgot to put the time off. Time.
It's not you forgot, you purposely did.
Yeah, is there anything that you want to say? Because I think this is what holds the key to whatever we're talking about. The communication is what holds the key. And one thing that what you said now, which is very interesting, is like the way we communicate here and understand. So somebody in Canada or US or Australia may not understand that. Therefore, what do we do about that? How do we communicate in such a way that they will understand? That's one thing. Another thing is communicating to my team, because communication is not only the words and the hearing, it's also what is behind what is behind what is being said. Most of the time I listen to what is behind what you're saying. Like I was saying in the morning, when I'm having meeting with these women in the villages, they don't even, what I'm saying is pra for them, but what they are understanding is what is behind. That love and affection is going across. So this is what is important for us as leaders. I don't know what you say to that. So how do we improve our communication, when we are communicating to people who are not really used to us?
This is a very important, very interesting question. I said, communication is not necessarily how you speak. Speaking is just a language. Communication is how you reach. It's very interesting and pretty easy to reach people. Okay, people who don't even use words will reach it better. Those who are mute, if I can answer this. Now, the language, globally, everybody is emphasizing that you to have is the neutral accent. Speak English the way everybody understands. Okay, now it's fine that I'm speaking like this. If I'm talking to somebody who's in Canada, hello, I'm Harris. Am I audible? Will you be able to understand my words? Then try to see how he is doing and build that rapport. Building rapport not necessarily means that you're mimicking somebody who, because when you do that, it's much more dangerous. Because if somebody speaks with a different accent and if you mimic, he knows, like, maybe from your point of view that you may think you are trying to empathize or build a rapport, but he may think that you are imitating him. So always better to go to that level. You might have noticed seasoned US professionals, though they are native English speakers, when they speak to us, they speak one word at a time. And we understand that very clearly. And if you also notice, those who are not seasoned US professionals, when they speak to you just like this. And you wonder what happened. And majority of time, the Indians who spend more time in US, they speak like that. Because they are not empathetic. Perhaps. Okay, I'm not generalizing that. The reason is, it's being a melting pot, they assume that this communication is professional communication. That's not so. I think that could be the answer. Thank you.
What about SPI managers and management? Where do we stand on communication? On the different levels of communication you mentioned?
Okay.
It's a good question, actually.
After answering this
For
question,
all of us, actually.
Yeah.
after answering this question, I may have to take a leave for 1 or 2 days.
It's okay, granted.
So the best way to do it is to allow it for the group.
Yeah, right.
And the best way to save your skin is allow the group to say something first, instead of you answering directly. So why don't you throw it to the group?
Including me, okay? On a scale of 10, maybe we are only at 6. That's not just because I said speaking is different and communication. We have so many ideas in our mind, and we know, like, if whatever we are doing, if we complete that, the output is not as what somebody has told us. But we still continue doing it. Say, for example, one of us the other day met us after a couple of months later, giving us some feedback that if you would have done this, things would have been better. But now, that feedback is awesome, but it's not timely.
Timing of communication is important.
Yeah, timing of communication is important. If you would have got that feedback on that day, hey Zeb, what you're doing right now is not actually what I need to be learning from you, because I think this was the It's fine, let's be candid. There's no harm in it. We talked about negotiation just a while back. It's okay. He may feel bad for a while, but after that, we are doing it for the larger good. So we are all close to each other. That's fine. That's a personal. Just a while back, I said if I have to talk to Sairaj, I'll try to ask him about his personal well-being before getting into professionalism. But I think most of managers have not defined a thin line between these two. And they may think, like, if I say this to Sairaj directly, he may feel bad. But that affects the larger interest of the organization. I think that's happening. That's what I see. So I can go for 2 days leave.
Including
just to add, what I feel is like, as a presenter from this thing, we need to know the audience first. So what level of communication we have to share with them. For example, we are sending a status report. So to the on-site, what level of status we have to share, and then we are sending a status report to Sanjay. So what exactly the level of information he needs, so that will not be the same. So if we share the same status report to Sanjay, there is no value.
Absolutely. We
So
call
that
that
is
as
what
a
one we have to
information
avoid.
overload. Yeah, that happens from most of my team members.
Most of
Hopefully it's
all of
happening
us.
to you.
Yeah.
You may ask us, please let me know the status of this information. You will get the information. So you have to end up taking the final output. I believe that's because we might not have trained them like what information I need. And Girish may ask me to give some information about something. I will load it so much, and he will not come back to me because he is also busy with his own thing. And he end up doing that for himself. And he will not approach me, nor he will give me feedback. I think that feedback, I think we need to give it to others. And most of the time, actually, I see that it's happening to me. I end up doing that work, which comes back to me. Hopefully, you are also doing that. That's because we are not effectively doing that communication part and delegation.
So one thing that I do, if there is an escalation, let's say, all the exits are behind me, explain what's happening. I put a two-liner gist of what is the overall situation and where we are. And people who are interested, there is a breakup, okay? And that is put in a logical way, saying that it's like an incident. What happened today, what happened yesterday, and so on and so forth. People who are interested will read it. But the gist is something you have to, so that you're capturing attention, that's all. That is my approach. But you probably guys have other ways of doing it as well.
So you have that at the top of your mailbox.
Exactly, on the top. That's the first thing, okay? People interested can read through the rest. In order, basically, some people might really want to know what really happened, right?
So Harris had rated us all of us at 6 out of 10. Do we agree or?
So Harris, you got to also answer, how do we get to 10? At least 9.
No, at least 8, right?
Right.
Because customer and
Yeah.
on-site or the organization mandate is 8. Minimum of 8. So first of all, do we agree with Harris or we are only at 8 or 9 or what?
But is this 6 what you said for offshore or for onsite?
That's
Or
what
as a
I
whole,
said.
as a whole.
The question I asked is SPA manager.
But I just want to understand whether he was specific, saying that 6 for all onsite, offshore, or only Mysore?
Not here.
Yeah.
You have only said Mysore.
Because I don't have the exposure to measure that.
No, my question was specific to SPA management, SPA managers.
Yeah, it's
6 is, okay. So-
including me.
So do we agree with that or is it? And is it just 2 of us? What about you guys? I mean, if you disagree, you should,
No, I mean, see,
speak up, right?
Because
Because
this is just a common forum here. Nobody is looking English.
I'm being candid for our own good. Okay. Yes. So 6 is the number, but 6 is not the right number for the SPI.
Or do you guys think it's lower or higher?
Like somebody feels that 6 we have rated ourselves high, but
Meets the expectation, Girish, as per our goals and other evaluation. 60, 6 is meeting the expectation, correct?
It's a first class man.
Huh?
60 is a first class man. That's what I'm thinking.
So nobody.
I feel we are at 7. That's what I feel.
Why do you say that?
What is it one thing that you see?
70 distinction.
Mm.
7 is my lucky number.
No, why do you say that?
I mean, interacting with people, I think. I think we are at 7.
No, I mean, some data, right?
I do not
No,
have
I'm not
specific
putting you on
data
a spot.
points.
I'm just trying to understand.
And I do not have any data points as such, but I feel at least on.
See, if communication is right, things should be running flawlessly.
Yeah.
Right? That's a direct measure. But day in, day out, if you are seeing,
Issues.
issues and emails coming, then there is some issue with the communication. That is what you need to take it. Then you start rating. And that is the internal communication. But other communication which is about what Harris is telling, right? Maybe got to do with presentations or whatever that.
But it's also important, right?
Yeah, it's important, very important.
So, Harris, I disagree with you. I think we are at 5. Sorry, you guys, we carried.
Yeah.
There's something called fear of communication, right? People, I'm not saying any of our English is bad or we're accent neutralized or Western Canadian accent or whatever, right? But people, even though they can communicate well, they don't communicate at the right time, right?
Some hold back is there.
Exactly right.
Holding
This is
it.
fear.
Yeah.
I really don't know what that is. The second thing is, time and again I've heard from customers, they don't want to communicate offshore because they don't understand. It is changing. Some of the projects we are directly dealing with the customer, so it is changing. But ideally it should be like we should, you guys delivery leaders, right? You should be communicating with the customers directly, right? It doesn't mean that you need to get an American accent or an Australian accent. You just need to speak slow or understand the culture and then speak. So that is something where all of us need to invest, including me. Yeah, otherwise whatever good we do right now, we may have the best critical thinking, best alternate approach. But at the end of the day, right, we will not be able to effectively communicate to the customer. And that's one of the reasons why sometimes right you do 90% of the work, but on-site takes the credit for that.
See, it's simple thing. What's happening?
All they do is,
Sanjo's
not generalizing it, all they do is just forward that email and some people take the credit.
Sanjo's presentation, IQ versus EQ, right? Okay. All the hard work has been done, but somebody who doesn't even have a great IQ, but is packaging it so well and communicating, they get the credit.
Yes. No, I think the one of the things I say about communication, like you said, it's not a matter of whether you know the language English or not, because even now I'm still saying that everything, if you want to be perfect in it, you have to practice it. And some people have not opened their mouth since morning here. Even this is an opportunity for you to say something, and it's not a place, it's not an English class.
It's just a
Without practice, you cannot. I'm sure you know what to say and you can explain it, but without practice, it cannot come. So these are places where you can practice. I am sorry to be using these words. The other time he came to our school, there are these small children we brought from typical village. They all speak English. It's not that they're being taught English in the school. I told them, you cannot talk to me unless in English. I don't know any other language. And you can see them speaking, whether it is right or wrong is not the point, but I'm understanding what they're saying. It only comes with practice. When Girish says there's a holding back, I agree with him, because there is a holding back. I have seen that since the time we meet in this room, only few people talk. Only few people. From the time we have this program, whenever we meet, only few people will talk. The rest of the people will sit. So why don't you start practicing it now? And that's the only way it will come.
No, how do we have it? Maybe let's accept that there is a fear, right? We have internally there's some fear, right, in terms of communication. So, but how do we address that? That's one thing that maybe L&D and
there's a vaccine available.
No, I would suggest maybe, attending Toastmasters.
No,
Though it's a public speaking, but at least that fear of, what if I say this, something will be taken. I mean, probably, because as communication, everybody is excellent in their English and in their expression.
So don't take it in a different way. So when I said fear, right? Fear of public speaking is one, but
Fear of even expressing what if I say this,
yeah.
Girish might take it in some
So
way.
say for example, there's a bad news, right? People just
Have to give them,
hold it until it becomes bigger and finally fire engulfs everybody, right? So that fear is there.
Girish, probably people are thinking, say, as ma'am told, right? fear, in the sense like whenever we are opening up, right, they will be like
Branded as-
yeah, yeah. In front of the room, if somebody is talking and those points are still valid,